I was born and raised in Detroit. I love my city. I adore all the growth and the architecture and all the amazing things we've accomplished, whether it be Motown or the automotive industry. And as I've traveled the world and spent time and lived in different places, I find that there's no place like home. Detroit will always be home to me, and it'll always be a place that I love. I love this staple, which is amazing. And it really inspired me to do my podcast, which is called Detroit Girl Transformed. I decided to do this podcast on Resilient Radio, which is a Black-owned station based in Detroit. And it really highlights the transformation of my city while I, as an individual, was transforming. And what kind of people come out of Detroit, which are really people with hustle and grit, who are determined and also exhibit perseverance. The podcast will really focus on different people that have different phases of transformation, whether it be their finances, their well-being, their travel experiences, how they transform their relationships, how they transform their spiritual beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's what's best for our city, and that's what's best for our legacy and our future and our family. What up, though? It's your favorite Detroit girly, Toni Carter, and I am so excited about this special episode on the Resilient Radio stream. Today, I get to talk about all the cool and fun things that we did in season one and really reflect on what that experience was like. But I won't be doing it alone. I actually have someone who's going to put me in the hot seat for this fireside chat. So we're going to bring to the stage ResilientJ, who is the owner of the Resilient Radio stream and also was with me. I guess I call him my day one. What up, though? We bossing up today.
What up, though?
From the very beginning. And he was at the first episode, which was the kickoff on transformation at a vision board party. Can you believe that was in January of this year? This is crazy. Time is flying when you're having fun. So I'm looking forward to you interviewing me. I'm ready for the smoke with all the questions about what took place in season one and even a little bit of what we have to expect for season two.
So I listen, thought, first off, kudos to you. Kudos to you. First time,
thank you.
Season one, 10 episodes, training wheels on the bicycle, just took off, and you rode in the middle of the street without mama telling you to. You're supposed to stay on the sidewalk. You got the nerves and the kahunas to get in the street on a two-way and enter into the venture of podcasting, where so many people have said that they wanted to do it, but couldn't do it, and you've done it. So kudos to you as well. Season one complete.
Thank
you. You're turning the corner on season two. So congratulations to that. Sorry, had to interrupt.
I feel like I'm hitting the curve with the training wheels. I'm ready to take them off. What up?
Yeah, definitely.
What up, Michael Jones? Michael Jones on here. What up, Mikey June?
Mikey J, what's going on? What's going on with it? Welcome to the live. Welcome to the Resilient Radio Stream YouTube channel. This is where we are. So, all right, I'll go ahead. I'll digress.
This gonna be the whole episode, so it's all good.
Yeah. There's no script to this. If it is, it's minimal.
It ain't done.
This is what we do. I'm just proud of her. That's all. I'm proud.
We out here celebrating because I'm telling you what, I knew nothing about podcasting, not one thing. So I was very happy to have you as a mentor, as a coach, as someone who was encouraging me, cheering me on days when I was discouraged. You and Chuck kept encouraging me. So I thank you for that, because it really was. It's more than a notion. And so I'm happy to share any insights or any support to anybody who's interested in doing it or who's currently doing it, because it's still a work in progress. So So, Jay,
Correct.
before we get into you putting me in the hot seat, I love to hear what are some of your favorite episodes or favorite moments from season one.
Favorite episodes. Okay, so I would probably say there was so many. I think for me, and I think I shared this during the first episode when I came out to DC and you know celebrated with you. I think for me, although the messaging was great, but for me, it was watching you grow from episode one to your episode 10 of season one and just seeing your maturation from, nervousness to I got this shit now. Right. So, but by the time episode 7, 8, 9, 10 came, you could see you getting your groove and being able to kind of manage, all of the complexities that come with shooting a podcast. And again, when you have a professional podcast such as yourself, I consider this platform kind of professional because it's not a lot of raunchiness on it and men
Nah,
versus
not
women
a lot
and
of twerking yet.
um, it's not yet. It could turn up to Maury Povich or
I don't know.
Jerry coming soon, but you know, it's a little different. And you could tell, and you could really see the preparation that you put into your work as the episodes continue to come on. But if I could immediately go to a couple episodes that go, I love the South African episode as well. And I love that. I love the fact that you had an all-female black cast of doctors on. That was very informative. Your
Yes.
the financial literacy was great. That's why I think a lot of people got a lot of information out of the financial literacy. The dating, that's always fun to see men really not say what's on their mind because they're around women, and women not say what's on their mind because they're around men. But knowing around the beer table, the conversation would be a little bit different. So it's always good to see that. So yeah, there was so many highlights. Listen, great job again. You've never podcast, great writing, great topics, and great host. So excellent.
Thank you. And I picked a topic. I think when you and I were talking about what did I want to have as my genre, right? And I just didn't want to be boxed in. And so I was like, transformation can hit every aspect of your life, right? Spirituality, wealth, health, fashion, travel. And so it's such a diverse theme. Like, we have some topics that are definitely focused on professional topics, but also some topics on like, how do you really have a really dope travel experience? And so it was a lot of fun with a lot of good subject matter experts and people who are really committed to and focused on their own transformation journey and willing to share with other people. So it's
Yep.
over to you. I'm ready for the smoke.
Oh, you're ready. And just a little sidebar note, just so everyone knows, it is radio stream has over 1.45 million monthly listeners. And
Woo!
congrats to our YouTube channel with over 32,500 subscribers. And again, thanks to the content that Miss Toni is shooting out. So let me see a couple of questions that I would have. Let me see. Because I know we were supposed to.
That's the Stevie J rub, right?
Yeah. It's the. Hmm. Let me see. Let me see. So Toni, and this one may not have. This one's coming up. This is off the cuff though, because I wanted to know this. I don't want to ask you what was your best episode because that would
You
kind of put
can't.
some of your guests on the spot, right?
But
So I
no,
would.
I have different things I like about each episode. So I cannot answer that question.
Okay. All right. So let me see. Which episode do you think you had a lot of fun in?
I had a lot of fun in all of them, but the one that I just was like laughing uncontrollably was when we did a recap of season one of Reasonable Doubt. I mean, it
Mm,
was just like we could not stop laughing. It was just like it was a girl chat. We had all the tea, we had all the information that you wanted to know, and it was just like a night with my girls, but it was a live episode. So it was so fun, so hilarious. So that was a good time.
okay. Okay. Yeah, it was. It looked like you guys, and I think I texted you and said you guys are having too much fun on this episode. You need to cut. I was
Yeah.
mad because I wasn't on it. It was a lot of tea. It was a lot of girl talk. So yeah, you guys did have a lot of fun on that. So which guest surprised you and why though? Which guest did you have that kind of surprised you the most?
Um Let's see. I have so many that surprised me, but I would just say the people that reached out to me that surprised me because I hadn't even really started the podcast. But there's a lot of build up to like coming soon. And there was a lot of
Mhm.
people that reached out and said, "Hey, I see your vision on this. I understand your transformation. I understand the concept of it." So for people to reach out that are doing really well and say, I see what's to come before it even started, really surprised me. And a couple of people were, one was Chef L. Simone Scott, and I think she's on America's.
Yeah.
She's a judge,
Yeah, that was good.
producer, well known on America's Test Kitchen, which is super dope. She has her own several books, one of them being Boards. She was one of my favorite guests. Just talking to her about that journey, being the first African American woman on America's Test Kitchen on PBS, was just super dope. And she's a great chef. And so I was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
surprised when she reached out. Very non-problematic, cool as a cucumber, and really excited for it. Same thing with Rosalind Miller. Both of them are my sorority sisters, but Rosalind reached out and she has many platforms on health, Black Health Black Health Matters, or women in healthcare. She's a well-known OBGYN. She lives in Houston. She has several social media platforms on health and talking about menopause and all the sexy topics that we want to talk about in 30
Right,
30
right.
and up, right? And so it really surprised me, and she was like really supported me, like, tell me how you're doing, what can I do to support. um Another one, you'll see some reoccurring guests too. So I got to give a shout out to my guests that surprised me, that really, if they could be on every episode, they would. And one would be Sam Teray. He focuses on fitness. I think you
Yeah,
met him
yeah.
at the
Sam is
launch.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sam is
and
crazy.
he about 3 episodes. He is season
Yeah,
2
yeah.
already, right? But he
Yeah,
truly
and shout out to Sam too. Shout
yes.
out to Sam. Shout
Focusing
out
on
to Sam.
fitness. He was in my dating in the DMV episode. He was in my Boss Moves episode, but just really and truly was so supportive of the journey. But he believes in transformation. If you think about it, every day he spends time with people about transforming their body, their well-being, their physical health. Mark was another one. He was on Boss Moves
Mm.
and from the D to the DMV. He's my
Yeah.
unofficial board of directors, but he has multiple um, businesses with government contract agencies. He works with people that are hearing impaired. He has,
Mhm.
he's on the platform with many nonprofit organizations. Today, he's a registered and licensed individual to help people go vote. So, I mean, he just has many hats, but he is always reaching out. What can I do? What can we do? So it would be, for me, the people that surprised me the most would be the people who reached out as it was building. And I hadn't even had an episode and said, listen, I'm in. And I mean, these are
Mhm.
people that showed up early. Sometimes, Mark and Sam were well known for helping me put the set together. Okay, so I'm not
Yeah.
tall enough to put things together. So I would be so relieved when they walk through the door early. So I think that's just one of the dope things about doing something like this. You might come across people that believe in it more than you do at the time,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you still building into it, but they like, I see the vision clear as day, like it's across the street.
Yeah, and it fits you. It fits you as well. And while you were going through some of your previous guests, I think we have a clip of one of the episodes that I think you were having way too much fun. It was like, hey, let's see if we got that clip. I think you were spilling some tea with the girls. Let's see if we got that clip.
Hey, hey, hey. And to my Detroit players, what up, though? It's your favorite Detroit girlie, Toni Carter, and I'm excited to share my journey of transformation with you, along with some dope guests. If you haven't checked out my new podcast, Detroit Girl Transform, on the Resilient Radio stream, here's a quick clip. Come check us out. Stay tuned. Yeah, we just heard that my boyfriend Tommy for Power in season 3. I just don't even know what to do with that.
I hope they put him in a swirl so bad.
You about to lay on top of him?
Oh, listen, let me tell you something. I cannot, because every time I think they can't get nobody fired, they elevate. They elevate. It's just like so many attractive people in the one room. It's like amazing.
I can't wait for Tommy's swag and commentary.
He gonna burn LA down.
But yes,
wait a minute, he did it. They better not put him on trial.
Yes,
You know he coming in with a crime. You know he coming in.
I want to see him in a different role. I
They
really
might
do.
try it.
Yes.
You always gotta
Maybe
come in
make
on
him
violence.
innocent because he ain't never been innocent. So maybe
He gonna choose violence every time to cut. Like that's how he always gonna make his way.
Maybe he'll be a lawyer.
Maybe.
y'all listen. If they put Tommy on there as a lawyer, I'm gonna cut that TV off.
Right.
Like,
That's the one. You see him, you going to jail. You know that meme where it's
No,
like
I think he'd be a great lawyer because he's so good at criming.
criminal activity. Okay.
so I guess we can all agree that we like how attractive the characters were.
Yes.
Are you excited about this journey of transformation? Let's take this journey together. To continue on this journey with us, each episode will have various examples of transformation. Be sure to subscribe to the Resilient Radio stream on the YouTube channel and turn on your notifications so you can get updates.
With y'all nasty souls.
Can I just say I was cracking up while the clip was going? Like, that's how much fun I had on that episode. And the three of them, like, just for context, we all crossed Delta the same year, spring of 2001. So we've known each other forever. Jamisha, I've known since high school. We went to King High School. I'm going all the way back to Detroit, 94 to 98. So we went to high school together. So it was just like us getting together as friends. And Ayana is my line sister, so she crossed with me at Eastern Michigan. Jamisha crossed at Western Michigan in 2001, and Maya was up the street at U of M. And so we just like, it's like us all getting together as good girlfriends. And so we did, it wasn't scripted. You know, they knew some of the questions I was going to ask, but we could not stop laughing. And we all genuinely love Reasonable Doubt. And for those of you that haven't seen Reasonable Doubt, it's really a great episode, a great series on Hulu where they talk about hip hop. Hey, cousin, I have a couple family members.
You tell Reasonable Doubt they got to pay for the plug. Reasonable, it's a night show.
I know, right? You're right.
Night show. But you know what though? That's a good segue for one of the questions that I have for you, because I noticed in that clip you were comfortable, right? And so I'm one of the folks that's from that generation, maybe it's Gen X, where you have certain extroverts who are okay with coming on live and talking on podcasts. And then you have a lot of folks, you know, our moms told us, don't let your left hand know what your right hand doing. And boy, you better not tell everybody your business. Keep it quiet. So, you know, how did you become comfortable with showing up on camera, knowing that it's permanently out there? Once you make this video, even this live, it's gone. I had to go through a transformation of that myself with my radio show of just showing up and talking and making, and then getting comfortable with listeners and people watching you. So what's that experience like? Because you know what, and to piggyback off that, I'm sure you know a lot of experts and just funny people who, and if you tell them to get on the camera, they would die. They would melt. Or you put the mic in front of them and they're dead. They're like, I can't do it. So what was that experience like for you, you know, shaking those cobwebs off and getting that fear off of you?
Well, I do a lot of so my background, I minored in communications in undergrad, and I do a lot of presentations, corporate America. So, and I think you and I talked about this. I was professionally social media trained by Walmart. So if you train by Walmart, because they throw you into the city, right? So Walmart, they sent me into Chicago to expand the stores into food deserts. And so a part of that is you got to go, you know, have you ever been to that where they in those city county buildings meetings and they dragging people out because people like, we don't want those retailers in here, they closing the mom and pops. So they trained me for that smoke in my late 20s, early 30s. So that I had experience with, but that's totally different than a podcast that you are responsible for. That's your own brand, your own business, your own. So I had a couple of moments where I kind of overthought a few things and was like, you know, did I really want to say that? And I'll put you on the spot. The first moment I had like that was when you asked me out of nowhere about my position on DE&I when it was at the height of a topic.
That's right.
And I wasn't prepared for that question. Even though I had an answer, I'm like, okay, this is going to be out in the universe. I'm still, you know, an HR professional. I'm still practitioner. And so I remember revisiting that question and that recording like 5 to 7 times. And it took me a while to even agree for that particular one to be aired because it was a real cut.
Yeah.
It was a real cut. And so I was like, but I look back at it and I mean, I remember talking to you about it. I remember I called you like, I think I'm gonna cut it out the episode. Like we went back and forth about that DE&I one because I was like, you know, I don't really want any flack from that. But at the same time, it's a time when you have to stand up and your voice has to be heard. So why not talk about DE&I when many minorities right now with ICE and immigration are being oppressed? This is not the time to be silent. And I believe that silence can be alignment. That is some of my motto. So, you know, I can't be saying in the backdrop, you know, if you're not standing up and speaking up, then you don't really advocate, but then I'm afraid to do it myself. So you just have to go back and think about what's the meaning behind the movement? What's the meaning behind what you said? Did you say it with integrity? Were you transparent? But I had a couple of moments like that. One specifically on the DE&I, and one when we were on the Black Women's Health. I'm like, this is just not, I'm not a doctor. I'm on a call with all these doctors. I'm not a doctor, but then I went into the space that I am comfortable with, and I spent several years in biotech, and I do understand how, you know, the disproportionate impact of Black and brown people when it comes to situations like COVID and hospitalization because of our underlying health conditions of diabetes and hypertension, you know, Black women being three times more likely to die in childbirth. So I worked in the biotech industry. So I sometimes what I've learned now is take a topic, whether I'm the subject matter expert or not, and build on what I know from my experience. And that has made me more comfortable because we have a lot of connections to a lot of topics more than we know. I don't have to be a doctor to really be passionate about Black and brown people getting a proper health care. I don't have to be, you know, a full-blown DE&I officer to really believe in health, to believe in equity and inclusion across that space. So it was a growing and learning curve. And I overthink sometimes still, but not to the extent of what I did when you threw me off on the first episode.
So you saying don't ask you nothing about Diddy. That's what you're saying? Because you don't want to. You don't want to touch the did he do it or did he not? Okay, all right. Just from an HR perspective. All right, we'll leave that alone. We'll say that. We'll say that. We'll leave that alone. But let's talk about your very first live episode, right? When we were there. How was that? What was that? But you kind of touched on it, right? You already touched on, you know, what your thoughts were in terms of your very first episode when I asked you about the D&I. And I told you I was going to throw some curveballs like I am tonight. You know, I typically, you know, because you're so well prepared, you know, and it's always good to just, you know, keep you sharp, right? The iron sharpening the iron, right?
But but the one we did, the first episode was pre-recorded. That's how I could go back and be like, no, I don't know, we should cut that. So the first live was totally different.
Yeah, it was. So let me see. So I think another thing that was kind of interesting was seeing your guests be vulnerable.
Yes.
And especially the fail forward episode. And I've been using that as well ever since I saw that. So as a matter of fact, I think we have a clip on that too, with your boss move. So let's see if we could take a peek at that. Let's load that up.
Bossing up on the boss move.
If they were bossing up. Let's see what that was. Let's take a flashback. Get the
Troy Girl Transform on the Resilient Radio stream. Here's a quick clip. Come check us out. Stay tuned.
Pandemic. That was a test for everybody, every business owner. There wasn't help coming from anywhere. You have to figure it out.
So I think I shared a story earlier in the conversation, and for me, failure is not necessarily a bad thing. If you're not failing, then that means you're not doing enough. You're not learning. You're missing out on certain opportunities. And so you have to figure out ways to stretch yourself, and to be stretched for you're not working out. You're breaking down your muscle. That's what it's actually doing. And so for me, those have always been learning opportunities. I learned the most when I failed. And I have many. And I was an athlete, got injuries. I learned from those injuries to how to now become a better athlete. Same thing as a boss. I learned from making mistakes as a leader, but then more importantly, going back to what you said earlier, having compassion and listening. The biggest thing we can do as leaders is listen, but I learned all of these aspects in my career through making mistakes. I'm a better person, a better individual as a result of all of my failures. So I fell forward, and I believe in it. And I hope I go out tomorrow and do something not just right, that I can learn from and can do something better the next time.
Absolutely. And I think we could learn from failing in both personal and professional, right? And sometimes growing up, I even remember just talking to some of my family members about, hey, it's okay to let me fail. I know we want to protect and put our kids in a bubble, but it's okay to make sure that we have our own experience with failure because it will help us have even more grit and determination to get things done.
And that's a great point that you just made about kids. And I used to say, we grew up our kids, and I was having a conversation with my mom, and I said, my kids haven't done anything to get in trouble. And I go,
You want another kid?
Oh, wait a minute. I know you're not talking about.
It's very blessed. And I'm like, but I need something to happen so it can become a teachable moment. And so, of course, you have to use the good times to teach, but sometimes you need a little something, a little something to just go, hey, now let me share with you why that happened, how it happened, and how you can mitigate it going forward, and that you can become better. And I just remember having that conversation with my mom. So yes, it's the same thing with our kids and our family, our friends. You need sometimes adversity to make things just a little better that you can learn from it. And unfortunately, my kids didn't really do anything. It's a good one. It was a blessing, but yeah. So it's with our family, our kids, everybody. Is how do you learn from these opportunities? And there's so many teachable moments.
Absolutely. Ebony? Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Detroit Girl Transform.
Man,
You taking me down memory lane. I was like, oh my God.
powerful. I was sitting there like, what? Fell forward? No tape. Let me write that down. I've been preaching that ever since. But what's your thoughts on that? What's your response to that?
Well, first, I do want to because I'm very connected to all of my guests. Like, there's so much magic in the guests. They have so much to give to the world. So, that was my honorary board of directors, Sam and Mark, were two speakers, and then Jamar was on the right of Mark, as Mark was the one doing most of the talking on failing forward. Jamar owns a venue that is Perique, which is based in Detroit, and they expanded it to the DMV. So that's where I have all my events at. And he himself is an entrepreneur as well as a COO for a company out in the DMV. So I just want to bring the wealth of knowledge, right, to that conversation. And it's so important to talk to people especially when that particular episode was Boss Moves, and you can still check all of these episodes out on the Resilient Radio stream. And that episode, I know that it's easy to talk about all the things that you do well. But you have, in order for someone to really enter to this space as an entrepreneur, they have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and they have to understand how to fail forward. I don't know any entrepreneur that hasn't had an experience with failure. But what I do know is we don't talk about it enough. And so I was so proud of my guests for really being vulnerable and really sharing that it's a good thing, right? And that's why I call it failing forward, because I think that you learn from it, you pivot from it, you grow from it. But what Mark was saying was so powerful, not just about his failures, but about the importance of allowing your kids to have the space to fail. And Sam kind of was opening the conversation with the pandemic and how he had to reinvent himself because nothing was open. And he's an entrepreneur, he's in training, so he had to reinvent it as far as becoming digital. And so the birth of something innovative sometimes and many times comes from a failure.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. What's funny is just watching people that's scared to even try.
Yeah.
Right. What's not funny. It's actually sad, right? It's not funny. It's sad that the people are so fearful that they believe that you have to be perfect in everything, or that someone might talk about you or say something bad about you. But again, my grandmother used to say they talked about Jesus, so you don't stand a chance. So if you keep that adage and know that doesn't matter what you do, someone's going to say something negative, especially in the world of the keyboard warriors, where people can say things behind the screen. You'd be in trouble worried about what someone says or how they think about you or what you're doing or your podcast or your radio station or whatever the case may be. And that's a good segue too so now that you've gone through your first season, what advice would you have for people that are currently podcasting or new podcasters or people that are contemplating on whether or not if podcasting is something for them. A lot of times I've heard people say, well, I really don't have anything interesting to say, so
Mhm.
I'm not gonna, I
Yeah.
don't think I should do it in the first place. So what would you say to those?
Well, I do want to and I'll talk about that. But before I talk about that, I do want to talk about my experience with like being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, because that first live episode, The Wealth Effect, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I was like pretty much hanging from the ceiling, right? I called you 100 times. I had Chuck prepping for the prep, and then it was Sharonda Williams, who was an exceptional leader in the financial planning industry, and it was a movement for our culture. Like, so many people were on there talking about, I didn't know we could do this to prepare for our will, and instead of doing a GoFundMe if we pass away, how do we prepare for that transition into heaven?
Now,
Yes.
now that was your first live, right? That's the one you're
Yeah,
talking
that was
about.
my
Oh,
very
okay,
first
okay,
slide. But like, we missed the
okay.
whole slide. I missed the whole slide, right? But nobody noticed that. Nobody knew
Yeah,
it.
you don't
Nobody
know.
cared.
Yeah,
But
you
for
don't know. Yeah,
me, I had to learn that that's why I wanted to just talk about that really quick, because
yeah,
I
yeah.
normally something like that would have just wound me up, right? Because it's like I'm such a, like, that's where my corporate America, my project management come in place. But nobody noticed that we missed the slide, including me. I actually texted her like,
Mhm.
"Did I miss a whole slide?" She was like, "Yeah, but it don't matter because the conversation was flowing." And so I think that's what I grew to love the live episodes after that, because it was because also the audience interacts with you with questions, and it's not just about what you want to say, it's about what people want to hear. And so that wealth
Yeah.
effect, I'm telling you, people text me still to this day and say how much they learned about the different kind of savings account, how to, defer some of the money that you're trying to, if you in a certain tax bracket. So it was, I mean, it's my goal for the Black community to really enhance the financial literacy, because we want to get in a place where we are building our generational wealth. And so Sharonda did a great job of talking about that. I used a personal example of my personal goal, because I want to be, by 55 in my own consulting arena, not necessarily in corporate America. And she kind of gave me, and we started off with the blueprint for my life, right? So that's a vulnerability piece. So I did want to talk about that, because I did have a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot something, but I fell forward because I was able to move and flow. So I think that was good.
And people
But
don't know that you messed up until you show it or say it.
I know, and I did, because I don't, I do presentations all the time. It's like,
Yeah, people don't.
you gotta be good at faking it till you make it. Look
That's
good
right.
doing it.
That's right. So you got a lot of new podcasters that may be watching and listening. Help them out. What could you say to them? To get them from the back seat watching to the front seat driving the car.
What's that song? Be encouraged. Be encouraged. Be
Okay.
encouraged. Because it is going to be days where it's going to be lonely, because you have a passion for your craft, and everybody might not see your vision. But I have a couple of things that I would say. Number one, understand the ins and outs of the day-to-day of a podcasting, right? So what does it look like to record? What does it look like to edit those recordings? What do what resources do you need to go live on YouTube? How do you market your product? Because I swear I wear plenty of hats. I'm marketing my own posts. So I know that initially sometimes we want to delegate those things, but even in order to build a staff and build a team, you need to understand how to do it. So that way you're not overpaying or underpaying somebody, because you have a good understanding of what the model and the scope of work looks like. So okay, it takes me this long to edit a video. It takes me this long to record it. This is the quality of work that I want. So you do need to be in the details in the beginning, just so you can understand it. And then, as you know, I think Sam talked about it in Boss Moves, understanding when it's time to pivot and build out your team so that you can really continue to enhance your creativity, because you don't want it to stifle your creativity, but you need to understand it. I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that I learned, being in my first round of it, is, this is not as easy as it looks. And so you want to make sure you understand what makes the magic. The second thing is, make sure you really understand and highlight the magic of your guests. So if you're somebody like me that's bringing people on, there's so much magic in that. And how do you unlock their potential? Because they are going to come on, they're going to be nervous. Some of them going to be nervous. Some of them going to be overconfident. It's going to be a different range. But
Hmm.
your role is to give the audience what they need and what they want, and unlock their potential. And so you have to think about how to kind of master that dance, because that's a dance. It's not easy, but it is something that's possible, because especially when you're picking extremely talented, knowledgeable people to be on your podcast. Um, and where I'm going into my learning phase is budgeting and understanding how to market your product, because that is not always well known. And I'm growing in that. That's a part of our next phase of our meetings. um, as you were mentoring me as the owner of the radio stream. And so, we typically underestimate the value of our human capital, and we shouldn't do
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
We absolutely shouldn't do that. And so if you can get a handle on that on the front side, the sooner the better, because our human capital, our relationships, our network, that's all currency. And so we need to understand and really see the value in ourselves. The last thing is, don't be afraid. There was one thing I learned, is that don't be afraid to pivot. There was one episode that was just like, I was like, I don't know. I think I promised it, but it was just kind of, I felt like I was locked into something that I wasn't sure I wanted to do. So now for season 2, I'm going to give you an overview of what it looks like, but I'm not going to be as specific on the episode, because sometimes things don't go well. Sometimes it's not a good chemistry with the guests like you thought it would be. It could be a myriad of things, but it is your platform, it's your brand. You don't have to air anything you don't want to. So, give yourself the autonomy to be agile. Give yourself the ability to say, I'm just not, this isn't the vibration or the energy that I want. And so I felt kind of locked into the episode, because I had talked too much about it in the launch. And I didn't like that. And I don't like, the whole thing about me is you can't box me into nothing. Like I'm totally a free spirit. So just, give yourself room to flex in and out of something if you don't want to do it. So I would say those are the things that you have to understand, the budgeting piece of it. For any business, you have to have a business plan, a budget. Because if you just go and fly by the seat, you gotta lean in, because you don't want to have more money going out at a rapid rate than what you have coming in. So you have to have a financial acumen to run any business. And so you are the CEO of your business. You are the writing the check. So, it's your P&L, your profit and loss. So just make sure you understand that.
Totally, totally, totally agree. Totally agree. Now you have a lot of folks that'll just pick the phone up and start recording, and that's their content. It's nothing wrong with that either, but one of the things about our YouTube channel and about the Resilient Radio stream in its entirety is having a diverse variety of different content. And shout out to Chuck as well, and Tez and G over at the Boxing Head podcast as well. I don't know if they're watching or looking in, but shout out to those guys, and Chuck for being influential with you as well as helping you throughout your maturation. But one of the things that I love is just having a different podcasts, different things. We have line dancing on our YouTube channel, and boxing to 2-3 different podcasts that's coming up over the next 60 days or so. And that's one of the things that I found when I started this, that I was like, man, can you compete with athletes and famous folks who all they can just roll over and turn their phone on, and they have 20,000 subscribers. We're considered the little folk, right? So our grind is a little bit different, but if we come together collectively like we have been doing on this channel, then it'll grow. So how has that part been for you, watching your podcast grow from you could check it one day and then it's this many views, and then figuring out what content hits or misses, right? Because that's a learning curve as well. The things you think are gonna fly and everybody's gonna like may dud, and then some of the stuff that you're like, I didn't like that, everybody likes. So how's your learning process going with that, trying to figure out, or do you just do what you like, what feels good to you?
So a couple things. One, I think I missed this as one of the points. So hey, Chuck is on. I do think
Okay, yeah, I couldn't see.
Get a mentor. So Chuck was my mentor, still is. He's going to be my mentor for life in the podcast. And but he walked me through so many, because he was on like season 3 when I was starting season 1. So I do want to say that I would advise anyone who's wanting to get a mentor. I had somebody like Chuck who was prepared with me,
You know, like live,
It's
like your
everywhere
audio
now,
is
and
kind of going out. Like now we're live, your audio's chopping up. I don't know if it's just me, but it might be. But that's live, and we okay. So say it again. Let me see if I can,
yeah,
if you clear. There you
yeah,
go. Okay, now you're back. Go ahead, say it clearly now, because I
yeah.
was chopping up.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
right. I want to give Chuck his flowers. So I was just saying, have a mentor. Chuck was very
Mm-hmm.
much so a great mentor for me, and pay it forward. Like I'm looking forward to mentoring somebody else, especially the way he supported me. He would get on and prep with me, and I can tell you, it was one episode where he was like, "You are okay." He was like, "I feel like you are too hard on yourself." I was ready to be like, "This is it." Like technology was going crazy on that episode, and he supported me. So I think that's a good call out too. But
Yeah,
to your
and you
point,
remember, and hold the thought to your point. Remember, I always used to tell you that I know you'd be okay when you say "uh-oh." Whenever you call me like, "Oh my God, I don't know about this," that's when I'd be like, "All right, she's all right. That's good." So whenever something would happen that would fluster you, that's when I was like, she's good." But if you like, "I got it all," I'm like, "Nah, I need to put something else on her plate because she's moving too fast. Now she got it. Now I need to add another component to you for you to be like, what? I got to do what else now?" So yeah,
can we
but go
can we
ahead.
talk about how annoying that could be? Because I would call Jay stressed out, like, "Oh my God, I don't think I did good," and he'd be like, "Oh, that's how I know it's gonna be good. You stressed out, you nervous," and I'm
Yep.
like, "Are you crazy?" He's like,
Yeah.
"That's your best work. You work the
That's the
best
best
under
work.
pressure."
That's the best work. Whenever you're stressed, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
And I'm on the phone, like hanging by a thread. Dre, like, "Oh, this gonna be good. Like, you stressed out?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Like, that's it. That's the
Oh
one."
yeah. When you don't call me, I'm like, she's not stressed. I gotta call her tomorrow. We gotta add another component to whatever it is she
It be your
we
own
go.
people, man.
Yeah, but sorry for messing up your thought. You were gonna say what were you gonna say? You were like first of all, I had to get that out before I
No,
forgot.
because
Like
that is true.
you
I'll be
stressed
calling
is
you.
good. Because
I'm like
when I hear what you
stressed
stressed
out.
about, I'm like, girl, you got that. That's
I'm
not
like, the
that's
audio
nothing.
went out. You like, "Oh yeah, oh that's fine, that's fine." I'm like, and Chuck be the same way. It's gonna be all right. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? Like
Yeah,
but you know, that's that.
live is what it is.
I'm a
Live is what
recovering
it is.
perfectionist. For those of y'all that follow
Yeah.
Brene Brown, like that's what I'm working on: vulnerability and recovering perfectionist. But I think what you were asking about is watching it grow. It has been like a shock to me. Like I literally would go out for drinks with people, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that episode on so and so," and I'm like, I didn't even know we were Facebook friends. Like that's been the crazy part about it, because it's not like I'm like a celebrity or something like that. It's just people
Hmm.
saying, "I like your content, I like your work." And it's been several times. Like one of my friends sent me, we were on a cruise in Europe, and she was like talking to me about this book, Failing For. And I'm like, why is she talking to me about this book? We sitting on the beach. And she was like, yeah, that was on your podcast. I said, oh, okay, girl, because I didn't know where we was
Mm.
going. But you know,
Hmm.
and that is just that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to transform people's lives. And so when people are unsolicited approaching me about their experience and their learning of a transformation, that is the best. That's like giving me a dozen roses right then and there, because that's what the purpose and the mission of the podcast is and was to
Uh-oh. Is that you
transform someone's
again?
life
Is
like
that the
one drink at a
audio?
time. So when people talk to me about something they learn, would you say?
No, I think it was your audio fading
Uh oh.
out again
Did I
for a
go
second.
out?
There you go. I can hear you. Yep. Now you're back. Yep. Now you're back.
Okay. Oh, I'm back. Thank you. So when people just talk to me about transforming their lives, it's like giving me my flowers.
Hmm. Definitely. Season 2 is coming, right? It's upon us. What do you have in store for folks for season 2? Don't give it
Season.
away too much because you kind of
Oh
want
no,
them
I'm
to.
not. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
you there.
yeah. Don't give it away too much. But what did you learn from your first season that you're gonna take over to season 2? Now I kind of know because you and I talked a little bit about season 2. But so what are your plans for season 2? How will you bring the excitement for next season?
You're gonna see some continued conversations. I will say that. So some of my episodes will be volume 1 and volume 2. I won't say which ones, but I love that. So some of the ones that did really well in season 1, we're gonna do a volume 2 with another spin on it. You're going to see a different, every season I'm going to do something around well-being. Like it's just something going to be in that aspect, because I believe that we have to center ourselves to deliver any and everything we want to deliver. It's going to be fun again. You're going to have some laughs. You're going to see some fun episodes. And I will definitely tell you that I'm focusing on the family unit and in season 2, and how that leads into transformation.
So are you volunteering to mentor the new podcasters that's coming on?
Of course. Of course. I don't know if I'll be as good as Chuck, but I'll do my best.
So tell people what's a couple of the things that's different between pre-recording and doing your live shows, doing your live podcast.
Besides my nerves being plucked. Well, I like to talk to the audience. And so I think, like now I could talk, like I can say, hey, so-and-so, or sometimes, we'll have questions at the end of this episode. So they get live questions. The other thing about the live is that, it is what it is. So whatever gets thrown at you, you got to take it. You got to have fun with it. And so I will say in season 2, there are way more live episodes. Like I remember telling Jay, it's a hard line. No live episodes in season 1. We barely got that one done. So I'm glad that now you'll see much more live episodes, because now I love it, which I didn't think I would, but now I'm obsessed with the live. So you'll see much more of that. So, there's also an art and a really cool thing about pre-recorded. So like with the South Africa episode, I was able to incorporate some of the videos of us in South Africa in that episode. So I don't want to down the pre-recorded, because the pre-recorded is just as dope, because we were able to give visualization of what happened when we were there while we were having the conversation. So I think that's the fun thing about, because you'll still have pre-recorded episodes this upcoming season. So they both are unique in its own way, and they both add value and impact. So I love them both for different reasons, and both of them drive me crazy for different reasons, because them edits and the edits in the pre-record, I'll be like, woo.
Right. Yeah. Dealing with the editors and the videographers, that's a whole nother story. Have you found it a little more enriching to have positive topics on your podcast? Are they, obviously it's fulfilling, but what gets the views and the clicks is negativity, right?
Yes.
Is, your booty got to shake, your boobies got to be bouncing. It has to be some drama topics. Diddy, Kales, Papoose, and the old girl. That stuff stays in the cycle. And it's so.
Them to get me out the chat. Remy and Papoose, get us out the chat. I don't.
Oh my God, get us out the chat. So how does that? You know what I mean? How does that? It's sad to some extent that negativity gets more views and gets more visions than, say, an episode about why you should go get your checkups and why you should bank better and manage your money and so on and so forth. Do you ever get the urge to do one Jerry Springer show?
I feel like there's enough people wilding in the mud, right? I feel like there's enough people. I feel like that market is oversaturated. So I'm okay with being different, right? Like I'm not, it's, what am I going to say about it if 50,000 other people hadn't said? Now, sometimes it might just hit my lap, and if I got something to say about it, I'm going to say it. But am I going to center my episode around whether or not you're the father?
Come on.
That's not transforming nobody.
It's transforming if you're paying child support. No, I feel you there. I feel you there.
Yeah.
So, I definitely feel you.
But I will say I still have controversial episodes like that dating in the DMV. Listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Them people couldn't wait to run to the chat, right? Because they had such an opinion. And that was one where I was one of the people that was a single, right? So I put myself as a vulnerable guest, and I was like, hey, I'm single as a Pringle, And so that I actually enjoyed the chat on that episode, because people were in there like, she don't want a boyfriend, she want an event planner, or
Yeah.
The guy that said he wanted his first date, he wanted him in a bathing suit going on an amusement park. And one thing about me is I can't control my facial expressions. Like you saw my face when he said bathing suit amusement park. I'm like, But people to this day still talk about the episode, and everything was respectful. Nobody said anything crazy to my guests. I don't play that. But it was just fun. It was like, I mean, people were calling me after the episode, like, I got something else to say about it. And so it wasn't drama, it wasn't negative, but it was healthy, robust conversation. We actually had a dating coach on there. And it was just, so I wouldn't shy away from those kind of topics, but something that doesn't bring life or uplift my people, I'm not gonna do that. It's enough people doing that. I'm just not gonna do it.
Yeah, I have one, and I'm getting ready to pull the cover back on a couple of conversations that's happening in the male circle, and it may be a good conversation for you all, because I always try to give you the good juicy
You do.
discussions, and then I just fall out the way because I want to watch. I open the door, throw the grenade, and shut it, and then watch in the window and see. But it's a lot. As a matter of fact, I went out with a couple fellas, and they were talking about, this. I hate to bring you back up, but the whole Diddy trial and the unaccountability to men that it appears to be that women won't have on being accountable for their own actions. And if you ask a lot of women and men about if Diddy's guilty or not, you have it's split amongst the sexes. Even though we're hearing the same thing, you hear a lot of women say, to the bast of hell with Diddy, and a lot of guys like, man, get out of here. That might be a good topic to discuss, how two sexes can hear the same data and facts and come up with two separate versions of what they believe the actual truth is. And a lot of men say, a lot of the, casting and the crew, or, they just don't want to be held accountable. And a lot of women say, well, he was powerful and there was nothing she could do, and she's the victim. So that may be a good conversation to spring up between some men and some women on why men are so inclined to say, well, women just won't be held accountable for making bad decisions.
Love to be general. It'd be like,
and then
y'all never want to be,
There you go. And then the women says, well, he could have, destroyed her life. He could have wrote a check and got rid of her. So that may be a good topic to discuss.
I think it's a lot that you can pull from that, because not just from the Diddy trial. I think there's a lot of conversation about Megan and Tory
in general.
Tory Lane. He almost got unalived in jail, and people still saying he didn't do it. I think in those situations, with the Diddy trial, let me just say this: any of the trials, again, me having years of HR experience, I've been in court. There's the first, there's the first time when you're being, talked to, and then there's the cross-examination. So I don't really want to have a conversation with you about the opening comments. I want to talk to you after the cross-examination, because that's when I feel like you're going to get the most understanding of what it is we need to know. Because there's a person that's testifying, and then they get cross-examined, and it's like, okay, so you said, why would I break up with Diddy? Ain't nobody left but Jay-Z. So then that's something that you got to think about. Cassie did say that, right? But at the same time, both things can be true. You can be a victim and still want to be with a high-powered man. So that's what we got to realize in these situations. And I'm definitely open to that conversation. It's not black and white. I could be a victim and also want reparation. Okay. And I could want an unusual amount, or I could be a victim and possibly be a part of trafficking as well. Like, you just, these are things that we trying to say it has to be one or the other. But sometimes when you in those really rough situations, you ever heard of people becoming the pimp? That has happened where a person who was being trafficked became the pimp to survive. So I just think that those are things that that's where, and this is like an extreme example, but you still have to be accountable for your role. And so sometimes men are saying that women don't want to be accountable for any part that they play in it. And so I think that's a part of the conversation. And women are saying, I want to be protected. I want to feel secure. So I think that that's a really good conversation. And I would consider that, not anything.
Yeah, definitely consider
about, right, black men in media. I'm not into that, right? I'm not going to go that route, but I might go the route about being accountable for what role you play, and just saying, listen, whether you was in your right state of mind or not, a thing was a thing. We call it in corporate America, we say, let's put the dead fish on the table. It stank, but we can't act like it ain't sitting there.
Right. And see, and a lot of men, and see, we don't, our brains don't function that way. It's like, if I make a choice to do this, that's the choice I made. And that's the consequences of your choice. And so you can't woe is me when you took the consequences in consideration and still chose to do it. It's like robbing a bank and then getting upset that you're getting the death penalty. They didn't tell me that was on the table, but you knew it was a possibility that could happen. A gamble. and you waited, and now you know what I mean. So it'll be good to have some, but they got to be some strong guys, because the women I've seen on your pod, they will push and the guys will run. So you got to make sure they got some backbone in them to kind of
Yeah, we got to
stand
have a
up too.
balance, and I think I do get some good. I do get men on here because I got to have the
Yeah,
men
you
and the
got to
women
get
that
some
can hold
fellas
their
on
own.
there. Yeah, gotcha, definitely. So yeah, so beyond that, again, great job on season 1. I can't wait for season 2 to come up and get ready. When do you think we'll be ready for season 2?
Oh, I know. It goes live July 1st. So Tuesday,
July
July 1st,
1st.
we kicking off season 2. And that episode is baked. So that is going to be on executive presence. And let me tell you, Freddie, the speaker, he was my speaker at the National Black MBA Conference a couple years ago. We've been in touch. We've done business together. And it is something that people of color need to understand. Like, it is a difference in how we show up with our executive presence versus people that are not people of color. And so I think he really leans into your executive voice, but also your self-reflection. A lot of people want this blueprint of executive presence, like, tell me what to do. But executive presence starts with working on yourself and how you show up, and going into some, and we can get into microaggressions. This is going to go a lot of different directions, but he really gives you the heart and soul of it. Like, one of the things I'll never forget that he said, which is like, him and I have been in contact for years. He said one of the most dangerous leaders is an insecure leader.
Mm.
And I was
Yeah, we
like,
see that.
you
Yeah,
ready
we
for
see
somebody?
that already.
Right. Right.
We
Where
see
you
that already.
You will go crazy trying to pacify their ego. And
Yeah.
he said, it's the most disruptive, dangerous person that you can ever deal with. And look at what we're dealing with alone in our administration, right? Someone is like, oh, celebrate my birthday, and it's a whole protest across town. So like,
Right, we're gonna ignore that.
yeah, just accept that, everybody don't want to celebrate you, but that is a person that is a decision-making body for a lot of people and a lot of lives. That's what makes it dangerous, because we are managing someone's insecurity and our lives depend on it. And so when he said that in his executive, I will never forget that, because I think about my biggest challenges with some leaders I've worked with. Every last one of them were insecure. Like, it was, but I didn't get that thread. I was like, oh, they're passive aggressive. I had all the things, right? All the characteristics of what I was experiencing. But the bottom line is who they were, and they were insecure leaders. So I think you're going to love Freddie. I love him. He's in Atlanta, come from a Baptist background. So you're going to either feel like you're in church, or you're going to feel like you're learning in the corporate America. And he has a company called Transformational Partner. So he has a company based on transformation. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's a couple of weeks from now. Next week, you're going to see some highlights of season 1. So we get a couple clips today. We're going to put together some clips, and you'll see that next Tuesday. So, and I did want to open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions for me or Jay? Thanks for all the love. We're getting a lot of love. My Aunt Greta's on here. My cousin Nisha.
Hey, Aunt Greta.
My sister Crystal's on here. I like to just be honest when it's my family. I don't want to play about it. Shonda on here. Our cousin
Shonda on too.
Here.
Okay, hey Shonda.
Yep. I appreciate it. And we have a couple of other people on here. Thank y'all for supporting. I am overwhelmed with the amount of support just for my first season. I'm really, really blessed and thankful for people, and I hope you're getting something from the content. But I don't think we have any questions, just a lot of shout outs.
Definitely. Well, we definitely appreciate that. Make sure you have a small business, large business, or any service. Make sure you reach out to Toni so that she can market your company. You can advertise. You see that space right there at the bottom of the screen? That could be your company broadcasting to over 32,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys reach out to her, DGT313podcast@gmail. See how I'm just rolling for? I'm just, sharpening it up as well. Make sure you guys listen to the radio station, ResilientRadio.net, or download the app. It's free in your Google Play or iOS, or just ask Alexa to play the Resilient Radio stream. Shameless plug. My own show every Friday at 4 p.m. to 7, the Variety Music Show. Make sure you guys keep that locked in as well. Congrats, TC, again. Round 2.
Excited. Round two, season 2 coming.
Are you coming to the D a lot? Are you gonna do some more episodes from the D?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I already did a couple episodes. So season 2, oh yeah, thank you for that reminder. That's why I have you on here. So season 2, I'm going back home. So I got a couple
Okay.
episodes already recorded, ready to go in Detroit. I'm excited
Live
about that.
audience. Live audience. They can come. You're gonna let them be in the audience.
Now
If you
you
come into
stressing
the
me out.
studios, right? If you come into the studio to the radio station, feel free to come and be in the audience. She plans on shooting one at the station. Feel free to come. See how I had to. Yeah.
That's how he. That's how. By the way, y'all, this is how he does me. Like he see I'm getting uncomfortable, he'll just push me over the edge. Like, come on,
Yep.
y'all.
Feel free to come. Be in the audience. We'll have some snacks and swag for you.
Well, that's why I love you, because you go pull it out of me. You go pull it out.
That's it. Nothing but the best for the best. Nothing but the best for the
Thank
best.
you.
There you go. There
Well,
you go.
thank y'all for joining. And again, check us out every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Transformation Tuesday. It is time to boss up with my Detroit players. Oh, we have one of our guests on from the Out of Mind Counseling Center. That's going to be one of our guests from season 2 coming on. So we are so excited. You have lots to look forward to in season 2. Make sure you tune in. A lot of fun. I am here to transform our community. So don't forget to check us out. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. If you want to have a commercial or open the episode or close the episode or be highlighted throughout the episode and you want to be an advertisement, make sure you reach out to me at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. Season 1 in the books. All right, it's transformation time, baby. Thank y'all. Woo!
Salute.
Salute.